Well, I mean, isn't that solution a little bit like a smoker that tries to cut back on the number of cigarettes they're smoking a day?
Well, if you can cut back, that reduces your odds of getting cancer. It's not as good as quitting. And, at some point we may be able to quit using petroleum. That's not any time in my lifetime, not anything that I'm worried about. Right now, we certainly can get more efficiency out of our cars and trucks, for instance, and still be able to drive them. I'm not saying we need to stay at home. But if we get more efficient, we can reduce our use of oil, and we can reduce the number of wells that are being drilled as a result. And as a result of that, we have a fewer, less of an odds of this happening again.
Well, I've heard that there's some people that feel like the environmental risks of offshore drilling just aren't really worth it, and that we just shouldn't be doing it. What do you think of that?
I don't subscribe to that. There are people that I, respect who hold that view. But what I think is we need to pay attention to where we're doing it, and we need to pay attention to how we're doing it. But we can do it. And if we have proper government review and oversight and make sure it's being done right, we can certainly continue to drill offshore in some of the places. Now, I think that there's more we need to learn to do right, especially in the deepest waters. But I don't think we can just rule that out and say we aren't going to go there.
Well, I don't know if I got my statistics exactly right. I understand that this well was being drilled from a mobile offshore drilling unit that's floating in the water, and that they're going down over 5,000 feet before they hit the bottom of the sea. And then
That's
from
right.
there, they're down about another 17,000 feet, and they struck oil. Is that about right?
Yes. So it is enormously deep, enormously complicated. And this is the kind of operation where the government oversight is most important. And I have talked to people and heard secondhand from others who have talked to people in the industry that a lot of people in the industry, not just, environmentalists, a lot of people in the oil and gas industry say BP is responsible, BP did this wrong, BP blew this. And that's why you need government.
Because we want the government to blow it, right?
Pardon me?
We in this country, we like for the government to blow it instead of private industry, right?
Well, we don't want anybody to blow it. But on this scale, we can't afford to have anybody blowing it. And, we were not getting the oversight that we needed from the government to make sure that this was done right. And it's not ever going to be perfect. You can't ever stop it. There's going to be leaks and spills of some type as long as we're drilling for oil. And we need to continue to drill for oil. But let's do the best we can to reduce the odds of this ever happening again.
Well, Stephen, we've got a caller. I'm sure I would like to ask you a question on line one. So let's see what Glenn has to say. Hello, Glenn?
Yes. One of the oversight agency is OSHA. Now, was OSHA considered big government and got cut down from what it was in the 1970s? Because in the 1970s, they were very powerful.
Yeah, that's the occupational safe and health people that set standards to make sure that workplaces are safe for workers.
And they would have responsibility for making sure that the workers on this platform were, in fact, working in proper conditions. And I am not familiar enough with them to know what's happened to their budget. I think it is entirely likely that the budget has been cut and the staff has been cut there.
Okay, yeah. I used to work on the rigs, and I used to see them fly in on the rigs. I thought they had something to do with checking whether, where they were throwing chemicals in the water or something like that.
Well, their concern is the safety of the workers out there, and so they'll be looking at the workplace conditions.
Okay, thank you.
And Glenn, you said you were an offshore worker?
Yeah, in the 70s.
Yeah, because I know that over the years, I think they've really tried to do a lot to make sure that accidents don't happen out there. But of course, I guess you would know as well as anyone, it's a pretty dangerous environment, isn't it?
Oh, it's a very dangerous environment. You could fall. You could the equipment that you put together to attach to the well be under high pressure. It could break loose. There are gases that can come out of the well that you can't smell. They are heavier than air. Will kill you instantly. So and then there were workers who will forget and come out on the rig smoking when natural gas is in the air, and you can't smell natural gas. The gas we smell from our houses, they add an odor to it. But natural gas coming out of the well, you don't smell it.
When we had a couple of people from the Deepwater Horizon on the show some weeks ago, and it sounded to me like gas rushing up from the well is really what caused the explosion and the sinking of the vessel. But what I'm wondering, Glenn, from your standpoint, working offshore, if you're out on a job like that, the job's running way over budget, the company wants to get out of there, they start, cutting corners, not going through all the expensive, maybe shutdown procedures. They're just trying to do the minimum and get out of there. I mean, what kind of say-so do you have as a guy working on, the job when that happens?
You don't have anything. You can't say anything. In fact, a lot of things you don't even know. Decisions being made, you don't even know about them.
So these guys working on the Deepwater Horizon, I mean, a lot of the guys, unless they were engineers or something, might not have even known that they were cutting corners that were putting their life in danger.
Correct.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. Well, look, Glenn, I thank you very much for your call.
Okay, bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah, Stephen, I have a question. If a hurricane comes, how bad? I mean, what will be affected if we get hit with the hurricane?
Well, there's a couple different ways, both of which are hugely consequential, that a hurricane can really magnify the problems here. The first is that the hurricane, depending on where it is and how strong it is, can make them cease their operations to control the well. They can stop drilling the relief well that is the most important thing going on. They can have to take away the ship that is capturing the oil from the semi-cap that they have on there now. So that's one thing. If we have a hurricane, we may go back to an uncontrolled gushing. And secondly is that the hurricanes and the waves can push the oil on, not just onto shore, but way onto shore. You get a storm surge carrying this oil, and you can really have a lot more than just the beach line contaminated. Now, I am in Pensacola. I heard you mention, Russell, that I'm from Pensacola, and my mother still lives here, and I am speaking to you now from Pensacola and was just out at the beach earlier today, and it's my first experience of seeing these glorious white sand beaches, and every wave that is coming in is leaving a brown residue. And the sand is just no longer the white that it used to be. It's not dark brown, but it's a light brown, and literally every wave leaves a little bathtub ring. And the far reach of the wave is the darkest of the brown. And there are crews out there that are picking up the tar balls, but the tar balls are just a small part of it. It's the dispersed oil in the water. But the thing that really got me that I was not prepared for is that there are no birds. And it was a while that we were out there before we realized this. All up and down the beach, we saw one gull and two terns.
Yeah, there's a quote on your website from Roger Helm from the Division of Environmental Quality, Fish and Wildlife Service, and he says, if this stuff comes on shore, a lot of birds are going to die. Now, can you explain how this type of disaster affects birds?
Well, there's a variety of different ways. And the birds here, they haven't died. You don't see dead birds. They've moved. I don't know where they've gone to. But as we were also coming back from the beach and crossing the bridge across Pensacola Bay, noticed that there was one gull that we could see. Now, there's always gulls on the pilings and on the side of the bridge and flying in the air. We saw one. So they've just left this area now. And that says to me that we have a lot of dead fish, because if they had food, they would still be here, I think.
Yeah.
And you're not seeing the fish. We don't really know that much about what is happening in the waters. The birds that get oiled, of course, have major consequence, and we've all seen the photos of pelicans particularly. They are highly vulnerable because they are plunge divers, as people who live around here know. They go down head first from a real height. If they can't tell there's oil sheen, they see the fish, they just go headlong into the oil, and then they get completely covered. And that keeps their feathers from insulating them, and then they can actually have hypothermia problems here. And so we're doing what we can, the government is, to capture and clean them. And it takes a couple hours to clean each of those pelicans. We're in danger of losing nesting areas where the nests can get fouled. A bird can come back and be sitting on a nest with oil on it, and the oil can keep the egg from hatching.